So now on the next video, we're going to take the same concept and do what we call a multiple production department factory overhead allocation. It's the same as the single wide, except I'm going to have more than one production department. And you'll see that on the next slide. Single plant wide rate uses only one rate, whereas here I'm going to have more than one rate depending on what the department is. So here we go. Here's what we did a few minutes ago with single wide. Here's my multiple. So I have a fabrication department and an assembly department. So fabrication is where they actually cut all the material out that they need, and assembly is when they put it together. And so we're gonna have a rate for each department. Well, if we do, that means we're gonna need to know how many hours each department is going to require to make whatever it needs to make. So let's move on. So again, fabrication cuts metal, assembly puts it together. So remember my 1.6 of factory overhead, it's now broken down into different departments. So my fabrication is 1,030,000 and my assembly is 570,000. So we're going to use the same formula, except the only change is it's the department, the budgeted department factory overhead divided by the budgeted department allocation base. So here's my formula. We knew that each of them took 10,000 hours. We found that in the beginning. So for fabrication department, I'm going to take the budgeted factory overhead for that department only, and I've got $103 per hour, and the assembly is $57 per hour. So now I have two different rates, and they're going to come together like this. Now we know each item requires different things. So a snowmobile has 8 hours in fabrication and 2 hours in assembly. The riding mower is 2 hours in fabrication and 8 hours in assembly. So our chart kind of looks like this. We're going to start applying that rate. For snowmobiles, for fabrication, we've got the number of hours times the rate. And again, number of hours for assembly times the rate. So per snowmobile, my overhead costs are going to be $938, and my riding mower's cost, again, it's backwards from the snowmobile, is 2 times my rate for fabrication, 8 times my rate for assembly, and it becomes $662. So just to have a good little flow chart, here's kind of what we did. We took the two departments and figured out how to allocate how much to here, how much to allocate here for assembly, for fabrication, an allocation here and an allocation there. Okay, so now before when we did single wide, we got 800 each, but now when we do multiple productions, we have different numbers. And it's interesting that the difference between the two items we're making is exactly the exact same amount, but different cost. So the snowmobile is basically under cost if I use single by 138, where the riding mower is over cost 138. This is called distortion of product cost. And I'm not going to go deeply into this. I'll go a little bit ahead here as to why it happens. Sometimes people just use single because it's easier, but it's not as accurate. So let's take a look. Here is why a single plant-wide rate may cause a product cost distortion. Differences in production department factory overhead rates, obviously we had one, and differences among products in the ratios of allocation basis within a department. So there's just too many numbers in there that could actually happen. The last slide I'm going to show you is kind of this, okay? It talks about condition 1 and condition 2. So I'm not so much worried about you explaining this part as I am the fact is you know how to actually calculate everything. So this is the ending of the multiple production department rates, and we'll pick up with the activity-based costing on the next video.